In 1851, Liverpool opened the Royal Infirmary with capacity for 486 beds. The city's population at the time was roughly 376,000. That's one bed for every 773 residents. By comparison, modern standards suggest one hospital bed per 1,000 people for a well-functioning healthcare system. Liverpool's ratio was already above that threshold. But the building itself was designed with expansion wings that could accommodate nearly double that number. Construction plans included basement infrastructure for steam heating, laundry facilities, and waste management systems scaled for over 900 patients. The population that would justify that capacity wouldn't arrive for another 30 years. And Liverpool wasn't alone. This is a documentary exploration of historical infrastructure. The observations presented reflect real architectural records, census data, and municipal planning documents from the 19th century. What follows is not a claim of certainty, but an examination of patterns that appear across multiple cities, time periods, and continents. In 1858, the Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston underwent a major expansion. The new pavilion added 200 beds to a facility that already served a city of approximately 177,000 people. The Architectural Commission specified that the foundation should support an additional 4 floors, though only 2 were built initially. When questioned, the hospital board's meeting minutes noted that the design reflected anticipated municipal growth. But Boston's population wouldn't reach the density required to fill those projected floors until the 1890s. The architects had planned 40 years ahead. Manchester's Royal Infirmary, completed in 1855, featured a similar anomaly. The building was constructed with 6 operating theaters. At the time, the city had fewer than a dozen surgeons qualified to use them. The ventilation system was engineered to handle twice the patient load the wards could physically contain. The infrastructure preceded the need. This becomes more pronounced when you examine the administrative systems that accompanied these buildings. Hospital record keeping in the 1850s became suddenly uniform. Patient intake forms, bed registries, and pharmaceutical inventories began using nearly identical categorization structures across institutions that had no formal coordination. A ledger from Edinburgh's Royal Infirmary in 1856 uses the same 12-column layout as one from Philadelphia General Hospital in 1857. They were separated by an ocean. Yet the filing systems were almost interchangeable. The scale mismatch appears most clearly in the infrastructure beneath the buildings. When the Johns Hopkins Hospital was designed in Baltimore in 1876, the basement level included a dedicated water filtration system with capacity for 1,200 patients. The hospital, when it opened in 1889, had 330 beds. The piping network was built for a facility nearly 4 times that size. The same pattern appears in heating systems. The Chelsea Hospital for Women in London, opened in 1871, installed a coal-fired boiler rated for 18,000 square feet of interior space. The building's actual footprint was 11,000 square feet. Engineering notes describe the boiler as appropriately scaled for future extensions. But those extensions weren't planned yet. There's a timing element that intensifies the oddness. Between 1848 and 1868, more than 70 major hospitals were either built or dramatically expanded across England, Scotland, and the United States. The construction wave coincided with industrialization, yes. But the capacity consistently outpaced the population curves by a decade or more. These weren't incremental upgrades. They were foundational overbuilds. Take the Guy's Hospital expansion in London, completed in 1860. The new wing added 420 beds. Census records from 1861 show the surrounding borough's population had actually declined slightly over the previous decade due to cholera outbreaks. Yet the hospital was designed as though a population boom was imminent. That boom did come, but not for another 20 years. Then there's the question of standardization. Victorian hospitals began using nearly identical architectural templates around the same time. The pavilion plan, long, narrow wards with high ceilings and cross-ventilation, was adopted across dozens of cities within a 5-year window. The design originated with Florence Nightingale's publications in the mid-1850s, but its adoption was swift and comprehensive. By 1865, hospitals in Philadelphia, Manchester, Glasgow, and Melbourne were using virtually the same floor plans. The coordination wasn't mandated. There was no central authority enforcing the design. Yet the consistency suggests something more than independent innovation. It suggests inherited knowledge. The materials tell a parallel story. Brick counts for hospital construction between 1850 and 1870 reveal orders that exceed the building's visible needs. The London Hospital, rebuilt in 1866, purchased 2 million bricks. Architectural records indicate the completed structure used approximately 1 million. The surplus wasn't returned. Foundation excavations suggest it was used for subterranean reinforcement and vaulted storage chambers that don't appear in public blueprints. Why build support structures for buildings that weren't yet approved? There's a demographic detail that doesn't resolve easily. In 1851, England's population was roughly 17.9 million. By 1871, it had grown to 22.7 million, a 27% increase. During that same period, hospital bed capacity increased by 114%. The growth in infrastructure outpaced the growth in people by more than 4 to 1. American cities followed a similar curve. Between 1850 and 1870, the United States population grew by approximately 60%. Hospital bed capacity in major eastern cities grew by over 180%. The mismatch holds across borders, across governments, across funding models. And then there's the question of timing relative to need. The cholera outbreaks of the 1830s and 1840s had largely subsided by the 1850s. Mortality rates were declining due to improved sanitation. Yet hospital construction accelerated precisely when the immediate crisis had passed. The infrastructure appeared after the worst of the demand, unless it was being built for something else. The records don't explain it. They only document it. But the documentation itself raises another question. Why did hospital construction records become so detailed so suddenly in the 1850s? Prior to that decade, most hospitals kept minimal logs. After 1850, nearly every major facility maintained exhaustive architectural archives, contractor correspondence, and material inventories. The shift in record-keeping coincided with the shift in scale, as though someone or something wanted the process documented. The pattern becomes harder to dismiss when you look at what was being built around these hospitals. In 1825, construction began on the Erie Canal in New York State. The project required 363 miles of excavated waterway, 83 locks, and 18 aqueducts. When it opened in 1825, the canal's cargo capacity was rated for approximately 200,000 tons per year. In its first year of operation, it carried 13,000 tons. The infrastructure was built for a demand 15 times larger than what existed. That demand did eventually materialize, but not until the 1840s, nearly 2 decades later. The canal's designers had engineered for a future they couldn't have reliably predicted. Or they were working from a template that already assumed that future. Railroad construction follows the same curve. Between 1850 and 1870, the United States laid approximately 45,000 miles of rail. But the tonnage those lines were designed to carry consistently exceeded actual freight volume by enormous margins. The Pennsylvania Railroad's main line, completed in 1854, was engineered with bridge supports and grade tolerances for trains weighing up to 400 tons. The heaviest trains running at the time weighed less than 150 tons. The Baltimore and Ohio Railroad installed switching yards in 1857 with capacity for 120 simultaneous rail cars. Average daily traffic at the time required space for fewer than 30. They built for a scale that didn't exist yet. The same mismatch appears in grain storage. Buffalo, New York, constructed its first steam-powered grain elevator in 1843. The structure could process 1,000 bushels per hour and store up to 55,000 bushels. Buffalo's grain traffic at the time averaged around 8,000 bushels per day. The elevator's capacity exceeded daily demand by nearly a week's worth of storage. By the 1860s, Buffalo had built 14 more elevators, each larger than the last. The combined storage capacity reached 3.8 million bushels. Annual grain shipments through Buffalo in 1860 totaled approximately 24 million bushels, meaning the city could store nearly 2 months' worth of traffic at any given time. Modern logistics rarely maintain more than a week's buffer. Why were 19th century systems engineered with multi-month redundancies? Then there's the question of urban water infrastructure. In 1842, New York City completed the Croton Aqueduct, a gravity-fed water system capable of delivering 90 million gallons per day. The city's population at the time was approximately 300,000. That works out to 300 gallons per person per day. Modern consumption averages around 80 to 100 gallons per person per day. The system was built with triple the necessary capacity. London's Metropolitan Water Act of 1852 mandated the construction of reservoirs and filtration plants designed to serve a population of 4 million. London's actual population in 1852 was roughly 2.3 million. The infrastructure was built for a city nearly twice the size. That population arrived, but not until the 1880s. The aqueducts, the reservoirs, the filtration systems, they all preceded the demand by decades. The administrative infrastructure shows the same anticipatory design. In 1854, Britain reorganized its poor law system and established a network of workhouses across England and Wales. Each workhouse was required to maintain detailed admission records, dietary logs, and labor assignments using a standardized 12-category ledger. The system was implemented uniformly across more than 600 institutions within 18 months. There was no central training program. No national bureau issued instructions. Yet the ledgers from Devon, Yorkshire, and Kent use identical formats. The United States saw a parallel development. Between 1850 and 1865, municipal record-keeping in major American cities adopted nearly identical systems for tracking births, deaths, property deeds, and tax assessments. A birth certificate from Boston in 1855 uses the same 9-field layout as one from Philadelphia in 1856. The standardization appeared without coordination. Gas lighting infrastructure tells a similar story. By 1860, London had installed over 1,000 miles of underground gas mains. The system's total capacity could illuminate approximately 300,000 streetlights. The city had fewer than 50,000 streetlights installed at the time. The pipes were laid for a network 6 times larger than what existed. Baltimore's gas works, completed in 1858, were designed to produce 1.5 million cubic feet of gas per day. Daily consumption averaged around 400,000 cubic feet. The facility included storage tanks rated for a week's worth of citywide supply, far beyond standard safety margins. They weren't building for the present. They were building for a future that seemed oddly specific. There's a synchronicity to the timing that's difficult to ignore. The Erie Canal, the hospital expansions, the railroad boom, the water systems, the gas networks, all of them experienced peak construction between 1848 and 1868. That's a 20-year window during which infrastructure across 2 continents was overbuilt by similar margins. The projects weren't centrally funded. They didn't share contractors. Yet the philosophy behind them, build first, fill later, was nearly universal. Municipal planning documents from the period reveal another oddness. City engineers in the 1850s frequently referenced standard capacities and recommended ratios without citing sources. A report from Manchester's Board of Works in 1856 specifies that sewer mains should be sized for twice the calculated maximum flow. The calculation itself isn't explained. A similar document from Boston's Water Commission in 1858 uses the phrase adequate reserve capacity and recommends infrastructure scaled at 2. 5 times projected demand. Again, no justification is given for the multiplier. It's as though the engineers were working from an assumed standard that didn't need explanation. Then there's the question of engineering similarity. Victorian-era bridges built in the 1850s and 1860s, across Britain, the eastern United States, and parts of Europe, used remarkably similar arch-to-span ratios. The Britannia Bridge in Wales, completed in 1850, used a tubular iron design with specific load distribution calculations. Within a decade, nearly identical designs appeared in bridges across Pennsylvania, New York, and Massachusetts. The engineering wasn't copied through formal education. Most of the engineers involved had no direct contact. Yet the mathematical relationships between arch height, span length, and material thickness converged on nearly identical values. The knowledge seemed to spread faster than communication networks should have allowed. Warehousing infrastructure shows the same scale before need pattern. Liverpool's Albert Dock, completed in 1846, featured 5 stories of fireproof storage with a combined capacity of over 1.7 million square feet. At the time of opening, average occupancy hovered around 30%. The dock was designed with hydraulic cranes rated for loads far heavier than the cargo ships of the era could carry. The cranes could lift 15-ton loads. The heaviest cargo documented in the 1840s rarely exceeded 8 tons. They built for ships that didn't exist yet. The oddness compounds when you examine maintenance records. Infrastructure built in the 1850s required far less repair than comparable projects from earlier decades. Sewer systems installed in the 1820s needed frequent replacement of brick linings and mortar joints. Systems installed in the 1850s, using similar materials, showed significantly less degradation over equivalent time periods. The later infrastructure was simply more durable, not because of new materials, but because of construction techniques that appeared suddenly and spread quickly. And then there's the administrative echo. By 1865, more than 40 major cities in the United States and Britain had adopted nearly identical zoning frameworks. Building codes specified minimum street widths, setback requirements, and height restrictions using the same numerical values. A zoning map from Glasgow in 1862 could overlay almost perfectly onto one from Baltimore in 1864. The regulations appeared within a 5-year window. No international commission mandated them. Yet the consistency suggests they were derived from a common source. Whether that source was shared knowledge, inherited practice, or something else entirely depends on how you interpret the word that keeps surfacing in historical discussions of this period: Tartaria. The term Tartaria appears on European maps from the 16th through 19th centuries. It was a geographical label, a catch-all designation for the vast interior regions of Asia that lay beyond direct European contact. The name derived from Tatar, referring to Turkic and Mongolic peoples, but cartographers applied it loosely to territories they hadn't fully surveyed. By the mid-1800s, the label had faded from maps. Russia's expansion into Central Asia brought clearer borders, more precise names. Tartaria disappeared from official geography, but it never quite disappeared from memory. In recent years, the term has been reinterpreted. Online communities use Tartaria not as a place, but as shorthand for a different proposition: that the infrastructure of the 19th century, the hospitals, the canals, the uniformity, reflects something older than the official chronology suggests. The interpretation varies. Some view it as inherited knowledge from prior civilizations. Others see it as evidence of a cultural or technological continuity that conventional history hasn't fully mapped. A third perspective treats Tartaria as metaphor, a way of labeling the discomfort that arises when infrastructure appears before the need that justifies it. None of these interpretations are presented here as fact. They're frameworks people use to make sense of the same observations. Return to 1816 for a moment. That year is sometimes called the year without a summer. Volcanic eruptions in the preceding years had altered global climate patterns. Crop failures followed. Social disruption spread across Europe and North America. By the 1820s, the recovery was underway. But the recovery came with something unexpected: a wave of infrastructure construction that didn't just rebuild what had been lost. It built beyond it. Canals, hospitals, railroads, water systems, all scaled larger than populations or economies seem to justify. If you view this as planned recovery, it makes sense. If you view it as inherited systems being restored, it also makes sense. The evidence supports multiple readings. The word Tartaria, in this context, becomes less about geography and more about interpretation. It's a placeholder for the possibility that what looks like rapid 19th century innovation might also be the surface layer of something older. That doesn't require conspiracy. It requires only the acknowledgement that historical records are incomplete and that architectural knowledge can persist across generations in ways that aren't always documented. The hospitals remain. So do the canals, the rail lines, the water mains. The infrastructure didn't vanish when the official explanations were written. It's still there, still functional, still over-engineered by the standards of the time it was supposedly built. The records document the when. They're less clear on the why. And the scale mismatch, the capacity that exceeded need by years or decades, remains unresolved. Whether you interpret that mismatch as foresight, inheritance, or something else depends on which framework feels most consistent with the evidence. The term Tartaria offers one framework. Conventional history offers another. Both are attempts to explain the same pattern. Infrastructure that arrived too early, built too large, and spread too uniformly to feel entirely spontaneous. The question isn't which explanation is correct. The question is whether the evidence invites examination beyond the standard narrative. The buildings are still standing. The records are still accessible. The numbers haven't changed. What changes is whether we treat the mismatch as coincidence, or as something worth investigating further.